Hello, third graders. Welcome to week 5. We're getting closer through our Michigan Studies books. So let's get started. We're going to work on chapter 7, lesson 5 this week. We have a couple lessons left before we get to the end. But hopefully you're enjoying all the different things that we're talking about in the slides that are after this video. Some of the pictures that we did from like week 3, I believe it was, are the same, but it's talking about the same thing. So I felt like it was an important thing to add back in so you could kind of see what they're talking about in this text. So if you're following along with me, I am on page 354. Okay. So chapter 7, lesson 5, ideas to explore. Enforcing laws and rules. This is what the people in the executive branch of our state government do. They make sure everyone follows the rules. Rule of law. Following our laws and not doing whatever we want. That would make sense, right? Separation of powers. Dividing government into 3 main parts so that no part can become too powerful. Well, that makes sense, right? Because back in England, before America was a country, they're like, oh, the king has all the power and we can't do anything about it. So it was the whole thing about coming to America was having freedom to be able to have someone not be too powerful, but also being able to make laws and rules and things like that. So in our government, you can think of it like a tree. And we've got 3 branches of government. We've got the executive branch of the government, which is the governor. You've got the legislative branch of the government, which is the lawmakers, like Brown-Colley that I told you about. And then we've got the judicial branch, which are like the judges and things like that. And all of the different levels of government, whether it's local, state, or the federal level, at the national level, all of them have all 3 branches. Like they all 3 have their own independent 3-level branches, which we talked about previously. I'm just reminding you that that's how they're connected. People to meet. Attorney General, the lawyer for the state. Judge, the person in charge of the courts and trials. Secretary of State, the person in charge of driver's licenses in elections. So every year when you become an adult, you have to go to the Secretary of State's office and you have to either stand in a really long line or you do it online. But you have to renew your driver's license or get new plates for your car and things like that. And that helps fund our roads and things. And so it's a very important office. And in one of the slides, I posted a picture of who those people are currently in our state. So you can have more of a current relative approach. Words to welcome. Bill, the idea for a new law. Budget. Department of Transportation, the part of state government that watches over highways, airports, and trains. So that's like, if you've ever heard of MDOT, it stands for Michigan Department of Transportation. They're the people who do all the road construction and all those things that are important. Executive branch, the part of the state government headed by the governor. Judicial branch, the part of government with our courts and judges. Legislative branch, the lawmakers. Okay. Page 355. What happens under the big dome? When we say the big dome, we mean right here. We mean the rotunda that we were talking about in the slides before that we had a couple weeks ago. Remember when I showed you there was a really, really pretty painted, like it was like hand painted underneath this and the ceiling, and then there was the glass floor below it. And I showed you that it was just, there was like little stars and it was blue. It's really super pretty. So what they're talking about when they say under the big dome, they mean the Capitol building. So that's all they mean by that. So it's kind of a cool place. Seriously, if you did not get convinced with my week 3 video about why you should go to the Capitol building, even if you don't get to go on a field trip there, you should with this video because it's super cool. And I'm telling you, it's like the coolest place. Think about this question while you read. How is state government set up or organized? How is state government set up or organized? Think about that. There's 3. I want you to put up your 3 fingers whenever you hear the 3 branches of government. Whenever our brains have an interactive way of reading things, they stick better. So I want you to make sure that you're following and doing what I'm doing. And you're not like, oh, I'm too cool to put my fingers up. Just do it. You can do this, okay? So 3 branches of government. 3 main parts of state government. The Constitution divides state government into 3 parts. One reason it does this is to make sure the government does not become too powerful. Each part watches the other parts. It is a way to limit government. Here are the 3 parts of each state government. Each part is called a branch. These are like 3 big branches in a tree. One is for the lawmakers, one is for the governor, and one is for the courts. So, as we talked about, this picture right here is what it's saying, that the executive branch is the governor. Then we've got the Constitution is like the core of the tree. So everyone, all three of the branches, their core is they're trying to enforce the Constitution, which is the law of the land. So each one has its own branch about the Constitution. And then at the bottom it says here's the voters. So you got the voters that are the roots of what makes why we need the Constitution. And then that grows up to be the executive branch being the governor, the legislative branch being the lawmakers, like Brown and Colley, I told you, and Dale's Orn and stuff. The judicial branch, which is the courts and stuff. So, the governor's branch, the executive branch. The executive branch can also be called the governor's branch. The governor is in charge of this branch. It is a big branch. It has about 20 parts or departments. It helps carry out our state laws or other rules. Page 356. The governor oversees many departments that deal with laws and rules. This is why he or she is in this branch. The National Guard is also here. It is under the control of the governor. This is a part of the civilian control of the military. Civilian means non-military person, remember. Other leaders in this branch. The Attorney General is also a part of the executive branch. The Attorney General is the lawyer for the state. This person is elected by the voters of Michigan. He or she helps the state with legal problems. He or she investigates crimes. If there is a phone scam, the Attorney General may look into it. Jennifer Granholm was our Attorney General before she was elected governor. She was the first female governor several years ago when this book was published. So that's why they mention her so much, remember. And then the little blue box says, the Secretary of State is another elected leader in this branch. He or she is in charge of driver's licenses, elections, and signing up voters. So if you look and see, that's what Michigan license plate used to look like. They might have some that look similar, but every so many years they come out with different designs and stuff. Many of the services of state government comes from the executive branch. The Department of Transportation is one example. Remember we talked about MDOT? It takes care of our main highways. It also deals with airports and trains. So, it's a picture of airports and stuff. And the caption says, the Department of Transportation helps us with highways, airports, and trains. The lawmakers branch. The second is the legislative branch. This branch can also be called the lawmakers branch. It's the second branch, remember. Making laws is called legislation. This is how we get the name for this branch. The men and women in this branch make our state laws. The lawmakers are divided into 2 groups. One group is called the Senate. The other group is called the House, or House of Representatives, remember. They shorten it to just House. Each group meets in its own large room in Lansing. If you have visited the state capitol building, you have probably saw these rooms. And in my slides, it shows you the Senate is the one that has like less people, and they look like they have really super comfy chairs. This is the only way I can describe it. And it's not the one with the video that I showed you. The video is the one for the House of Representatives where Brown and Colley is, whereas the Senate is the one where Dale Zorn is. But I haven't met him while we were there. I think I've met him before, but that's not the point. So that one is the one with less chairs in it, and then the House is the one that has most of the pictures on the slides. So if you look at the caption, it says, Bruce Caswell is at his desk in the State House. He was a state representative. I don't know who that guy is. I've never heard of him before, but he obviously was a state representative. Then if you look at this picture, it says, the Senate is on this side, which is the south side, and the House is on this side, which is the north side. So on the slide, I also put a better picture of that, of the actual picture of the Capitol, not just like a clip art. So that way you could see what it really looks like from the outside and which way they're talking about. Making a new law. Now, this is also where you should be watching the Schoolhouse Rock videos because they are awesome. And this one is I'm Just a Bill. You know, that one, like, it's good. I love it. So it says, how do we get new laws? Each begins as an idea. People tell their ideas to their state senator or representative for their district. The lawmaker may also decide to use one of his or her own ideas. The lawmaker will write a bill. A bill is the official wording of the idea for a new law. The lawmakers will talk about the bill in the House or in the Senate. Then they will vote on the bill. If the bill passes, it will go to the other group of lawmakers. Finally, if both groups pass the bill, it goes to the governor. So the caption, remember, always read captions. I may become a new law if I'm passed. And it says, I am a bill, a law to give A's to all students. Next, the governor can sign the bill. If it is signed, it will become law. If the governor does not like the bill, he or she can veto it. A veto usually keeps it from becoming a law, unless, this isn't said in the book, but unless they go back and they vote 2/3 vote, and they can override a governor or a presidential veto by saying, okay, we don't agree with what the president is saying, even though they say no, we want to do this bill anyways. And if they get 2/3 vote, not just, 50-50, it has to be 2/3, then they can turn it over and make it into a law and override the veto, which is really interesting. This next section, I bet you don't realize how important this next thing is, but it's something that's probably been a part of your whole entire life, and you just don't even realize that it's even a big deal. How many of you have ever had a can of pop or a bottle or something, and your mom say, don't throw that away, that you can get 10 cents back on that? It's called a deposit. So I didn't know this until I was older, but I thought, it's just free money. Well, it's not really free money. You're still paying the same amount. You pay 10 cents more. Let's say I have a can of Coke and I am buying it. Well, let's say it's only 50 cents. Well, if I'm at the store, I'm going to pay 60 cents for it. But if I return that one can back, I will get the 10 cents back. And so at Meijer and places, there's like those little like containers and those machines where you put them in there and then it'll add them all up and then you'll get a slip out and then you take it to the cash register and they'll give you that cash back. So if you for some reason did not purchase it and someone was like throwing it away and they didn't want to do it, then that is like free money for you. When I was younger, my grandparents, they would donate all of their cans and stuff that they saved up for like the whole year, and I would go and return them, and I could use that money for camp. So and I got like a couple $100 worth of it. So it's not like, it's just 10 cents. 10 cents adds up really fast. Like if you're getting like a 12-pack of Coke, cans of Coke, like that's $1.20 that you can get back. That's pretty cool. So, and it keeps our roadways and stuff clean. So people don't just like, it's no big deal, I'm just gonna throw it away. I'm gonna throw it out in the middle of the road. So that's why it's important. So page 358. An example of making a law. The bottle bill. Do you remember the bottle bill from chapter 1? Oh, yeah, I forgot you guys knew about that. The idea for that law started because people complained about empty bottles and cans thrown along our roads. It was a mess. It was felt a deposit would help people to bring the bottles and cans back to the stores. The only way to have a statewide deposit was to pass a state law. That is what took place. This law has been very helpful. Now 96 of every 100 bottles and cans go back to the stores. If you find a bottle or can along the road, look it over. Maybe it came from a state without a deposit. Maybe someone from Ohio tossed it out. They would not get money back for returning it in their store. So yeah, so it only is in Michigan. But if you see cans in Ohio, no one's gonna like really care about it because they probably don't realize it's like a big deal. So they're like, oh yeah, I'll take yours. And then you bring it back into Michigan and then you get money for it. So the caption says, Michigan's bottle bill deposit tries to keep junk from roadsides and parks. The rule of law. In our country and state, we follow the rule of law. This means we follow the laws that are passed. We do not ignore them. People do not make up rules as they go. This is not true in some countries. Their leaders and important people may ignore the laws. They feel they are above the law. They just do what they please. There is little fairness or justice in those places. The powerful rule everyone. This is not the way we want our nation to work, because we want everyone to have a voice equally, and we don't want anyone to feel like they can't have a voice or they are not getting heard. Page 359. The courts branch. The third part of the state government is the courts. Judges are in charge of the courts. Because of this, it can also be called the judicial branch, because judicial meaning judge. The courts handle all sorts of disagreements. A local court may have two neighbors upset about a dog that always barks. The state Supreme Court may have a case that affects everyone in Michigan. It may decide what a state law means. But not all government takes place under the big white dome of the Capitol building. The Senate, state Supreme Court, and some other top courts are in the Michigan Hall of Justice. It is down the street from the Capitol. This says the Michigan Hall of Justice. So I put a picture of that one on the slides too. One thing to keep in mind though, in the Capitol building though, there is a Supreme Court room, it says though. So I wonder if that's only used for certain committees and things like that. And that might be an older Supreme Court room. But if I remember correctly, I thought that's what they had said was that. And it says it on the little etching above the door. I put it above on the slides because that's what they had told us when I was there, was that was the Supreme Court. But maybe there's a different portion of it. And maybe that's just more of a historical part of it and not like what they currently use. That's possible. I'm not 100% sure, but I've never been to this Hall of Justice. But I think it's down the road. But I think it's across the street from the Michigan History Museum though. There was the virtual field trip about, which in case you didn't remember, it's like my favorite place. Super great. Anyways, moving on. Page 360. Why have so many parts? Your mind might be spinning. You may ask, why do we need so many parts in government? Having the three branches divides the power of government. This way, no one part has too much power. This is called the separation of powers. When one person or group gets too much power, bad things seem to happen. Then people often lose their freedoms. The core democratic values can be forgotten. Don't forget our core democratic values from last week when we talked about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, common good, things like that, remember? The state budget. Now, when you think of budget, think money, okay? Think about how they're going to spend their money. So a budget isn't saying, oh, I can't spend any money. It's just telling your money where to go instead of wondering, okay, well, I had all this money, where did it go? I don't know what I did with it. So a budget, no matter how old you are, I don't care if you're 5 years old or 75 years old, a budget is a very important thing so that way you can know how to use your money wisely. Maybe you've been to the store, maybe a book fair or something, you're like, oh, I'm going to get this. And you realize, oh, that's like all of my money. Do I really want to spend all of my money on that? And wondering, okay, well, what happened? So a budget is like a pie, which is why there's a piece of the pie, a legitimate pie. So think of a pie. You have 100%, a full circle, right? A full pie. If you take out a piece of the pie to spend for this, or to spend for that, or to spend for this, those all make up the same amount of budget because you still have the same amount of money in the end. You're just figuring out, okay, who gets this piece? Who gets that piece? Who gets a smaller piece? Do you think that maybe your dad or your mom might need a bigger piece of pie because they'd be more hungry than maybe a little baby would? A little baby wouldn't need a full piece of pie because they probably couldn't eat it all. So they might need a little bit less of a pie. So think about that when we're thinking about budgets, okay? The state budget. Do you know what a budget is? Have you ever heard your parents talking about a family budget? A budget is the amount of money that will be spent. Budgets are made to see if there will be enough money for the important things. Each year, Michigan's government makes a budget. It decides how much money it will get from taxes. It decides how this money will be spent. It is a bit like cutting a pie and deciding who gets the big piece and who gets the little piece, which is what I just said. Tough choices are made in the budget. There are opportunity cost. If money is spent on one thing, it will not be there for something else. What will the government need to give up? Should the money go to schools or to highways? Trade-offs are made. Should the state police get less money and the prisons more money? So they're talking all about the trade-offs. So opportunity cost, remember, is the amount of money you're willing to give up to get something. So like for instance, in our classroom economies that we had, are you willing to, let's say in my class, it was like dojo points, where are you willing to give up and cash in your 50 points that you earned for a coupon? Or would you rather save that up and make it more of like a VIP pass where you're sitting on the stage or things like that? Like, what is it worth it? Or are you going to save up to maybe have lunch with a teacher or something like that? Like, what are you going to do? You have to figure that out to see, okay, what is it worth to give up to get something else? That's what opportunity cost is, remember. Okay, so on page 361, it says, the amount spent should equal what comes in from taxes and fees. State government is not allowed to spend more than what it gets. You can't just be negative. It doesn't work like that. Well, it shouldn't work like that. You have a certain amount of money and you can't go in the hole. So this is an older budget, but if we look at it, this is called a pie chart. So it says Michigan's budget, transportation, so like roads and things like that. That is 14%. School aid, so how much money we get to educate everybody, 48%. All other parts, 8%. Family Independence Agency, 5%. Universities like colleges and stuff, 7%. Corrections, 7%. That's like jails and stuff. Health, 11%. So taking care of people who don't necessarily have anything that need healthcare taken care of by the state. So that is the budget. So if you add all of those up, it will equal 100%. So all state governments are similar. Michigan works much the same as most other state governments. Governors lead all of them. So what this is saying is, I bet you, see if you can figure out which state these are. I'm gonna give you a second to think which states these are. Do you think you can figure them out? Okay, we got Georgia, Michigan, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. It's saying that all of those states are equal. And then you remember, this is, I'm just going to talk about this caption. It says both have 3 branches. So when we're talking about the nation's government, this is what they're talking about, that the state and the nation all have the same. Remember I said there's the 3 branches for state, local, and federal. So it says, our nation's government and state government are alike. Our national government in Washington, D.C. also has 3 branches. These branches work much like they do in Michigan. The biggest difference is the president is in charge, not a governor. So, page 362, it's the questions and stuff. Think about it, talk about it. Name the 3 branches of our state government. You remember? Explain what each branch does. Why does state government have 3 branches? Where does the state get the money to pay for its budget? What does the rule of law mean? What is the idea for a new law called? Words in action. Compare the 3 branches of government to the 3 legs of a stool. How does having 3 branches make your government stronger? Does a stool work with only 2 legs? Yeah, so if I have 3 legs, it's going to be balanced, right? But if I only have 2, it's going to be wobbly. So it's not going to work. Think like an economist. Remember, economy means money. Money, money, money. Make an imaginary state budget. Talk about the choices that need to be made. What opportunity costs will be there? What trade-offs will you need to make? How much will you need to pay? How much will you need in taxes to pay for everything? Take a stand. Think about a new law. Should Michigan have a 10-cent deposit on all kinds of beverage containers, not just fizzy beverages, so like water bottles and things like that are not pop, those don't count, or juice, you don't get it on that either, it's only just pop. This would include water bottles, tea bottles, juice bottles, and more. Include any core democratic values that support your stand. Explain the costs and benefits of this change. It says define more information, use the internet sites mucc.org, bottlebill.org, and michigan.gov/DEQ. DEQ is the Department of Environmental Quality, so they might have a different perspective on things of what the environment impact might be for that. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd like to hear your perspectives on that and maybe create a bill that you think, hey, that'd be sweet. Like, what do you think? Do you think that's a good idea or do you think it's a bad idea? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know. Okay. So that is all we have for this week. Got 2 more lessons left after this one, which is kind of sad, but exciting at the same time that summer's coming. Hopefully I'll see you all soon. Adios. You know where to find me if you have any questions. And check out the cool slides. Bye.